The day my parents shipped me off to that behavioral modification camp, I still had the proof in my pocket, the footage that would have cleared my name. They didn't even look at it. Instead, they chose to believe the girl who was sobbing so hard she choked on her own breath. 5 years later, when the heavy iron gates finally swung open and let me out, the first thing I saw was her. She was wearing my old school uniform skirt, her hand tucked comfortably into my brother's arm, smiling as she called me her little sister. In my absence, she had become an internet darling, an inspirational sweetheart with millions of followers. She slept in my bedroom, in my bed, and used my family's last name to sign brand deals. My mother's first words to me were a warning. "Haley has a weak heart, Gwen. Don't do anything to upset her." My father handed me a clinical evaluation report. "You have documented aggressive tendencies," he said, his voice flat. "Don't ruin any more lives." Behind them, shielded by their protective bodies, Haley looked at me. The tears vanished for a split second, and her lips silently formed 5 words. "You can't beat me." I smiled. 5 years in that hellhole hadn't taught me much, but it had taught me one thing: how to make people who pretend to be asleep open their eyes and watch themselves rot. 01. There was a red carpet rolled out at our front door the day I came home, I in the living room. Ring lights were set up, glowing aggressively. 3 different smartphones were mounted on tripods, streaming live. My mother, Dora, dressed in a flawless champagne-colored pantsuit, was draping an arm around Haley. She smiled warmly at the camera. "Today is the day our family is finally whole again," she said in her polished, Charity Gala voice. "We hope our journey can bring awareness to troubled teens transitioning back into the home." The lens swung toward me. The live chat on the screen began to scroll at a dizzying speed. "Wait, is that the sister who pushed her classmate off the stairs? She looks so cold. Creepy vibe. Don't be scared, Haley. We love you." I stood in the entryway, clutching a single black duffel bag. Inside were 2 changes of clothes, a heavily dog-eared copy of the Civil Code, and a certificate of completion from the Youth Reform Facility. My mother's smile faltered for a fraction of a second before she quickly recovered, waving me over. "Gwen, sweetie, come here. Say hello to everyone." My name is Gwen, but for the last 5 years, that name had been a hush taboo in this house. They preferred to call me the problem child, the delinquent, the unstable one. Haley walked toward me. She was even more beautiful than I remembered. Doe eyes, cascading brunette curls, wearing a pristine white dress. Around her delicate wrist was the scarlet thread bracelet my father had bought me for my 16th birthday. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. As she did, her manicured nails dug viciously into the old, tender scar tissue on my lower back. "Little sister, you're finally home," she whispered against my ear, her breath warm and smelling of mint. "I've missed you every single day. I asked the bed and they're still as hard as rock. I heard you have to ask permission just to use the bathroom in the middle of the night." I didn't flinch. The cameras were rolling, my parents were watching, and tens of thousands of strangers in the chat were waiting. She wanted me to shove her. She wanted me to snap, to lose my mind so the audience could witness the aggressor attacking her victim live. Instead, I lifted my hands and gently patted her back. "Don't shake, Haley," I whispered back, leaning into her ear. "It's been 5 years, and your acting has actually gotten worse." She pulled back instantly, her eyes welling with tears. "Mom, it's okay. I think Gwen is just still adjusting." My mother rushed over, placing herself like a shield between us, her voice dripping with suppressed anger. "Gwen, you just got back. Can't you behave for once?" My father, Richard, turned off one of the streaming phones, his face dark. "Your sister is a public youth ambassador now. There are eyes on us. Don't humiliate this family." My brother, Wyatt, came down the stairs. I remembered when we were younger, how he used to lift me onto his shoulders, how he'd buy me double scoops of chocolate chip ice cream whenever I got an A. No, he looked at me like I was a ticking bomb that needed immediate containment. "We gave your old room to Haley," Wyatt said, his voice clipped. "You'll sleep in the downstairs utility room for now." I looked up at the door at the end of the second floor hallway. My room. A cute pastel plaque was hung on the wood, Haley's sanctuary. Haley, the girl who, 5 years ago, had cornered our classmate in the gym locker room with her gang. The girl who had sliced her own arm with an X-Acto knife, crying to the police that I was the one bullying her. The girl whose cruelty I had recorded on my phone, footage I never got to show anyone before she turned the tables on me. And now, she was the underprivileged, inspirational girl my parents sponsored. My sister. My father tossed a thick stack of papers onto the coffee table. "These are the enrollment documents for your new school. They're willing to take you, on one condition. You do not cause trouble." I picked up the top sheet. "IT was a parental guardianship agreement. Underneath was a behavioral observation contract. If I exhibited any signs of aggression at school, my family had the legal right to immediately commit me to a psychiatric ward or another closed management facility. Richard had already signed it. So had Dora. Wyatt's signature sat at the bottom as a witness, his handwriting sharp and cold. I put the papers back down. Very thorough. My mother breathed a sigh of relief, assuming I was finally broken into submission. Haley leaned against Dora's shoulder, her voice soft and fragile. "Gwen, you really shouldn't blame Mom and Dad. They didn't have a choice back then. You pushed me down the stairs, and I still have chronic pain from it. The fact that they're willing to take you back, it's incredibly generous of them." I looked at her. "Does it still hurt?" She bit her lip, nodding meekly. "When it rains, and in my nightmares." I took a step toward her. My mother instantly blocked my path. "What do you think you're doing?" I stopped a few feet away, a faint smile on my lips. I just wanted to compare. The living room went dead silent. I slowly rolled up my sleeves, revealing a neat row of faded, jagged white scars lining my forearms. These are from the program's counselors. They used wooden rulers when we didn't sit straight. I pulled my collar aside to expose the back of my neck, where a thick, uneven surgical scar sat. "And this is from a metal basin. A girl in my cabin threw it at me while I slept." I pointed to my left ear. "And this one, I was forced to stand outside in the freezing rain for 3 hours. The infection got so bad it damaged the nerves. I can't hear low frequencies anymore." Haley's face drained of color. The other 2 streaming phones were still live. The chat went absolutely silent for several seconds before erupting in a chaotic frenzy. "Oh my God, what are those scars? What kind of camp was she sent to? Why did Haley stop talking?" My mother panicked, lunging forward to kill the feeds. My father's face turned livid. "Gwen, are you trying to ruin this family on your very first day back?" I pull my sleeves down, smoothing out the cheap fabric. "Of course not, Dad." I glanced at the scarlet bracelet on Haley's wrist. I was just reminding my sister to adjust her lighting next time. It would be a shame if she accidentally broadcasted someone else's wounds. 02. The utility room had no windows. It smelled of bleach and old cardboard. It was packed with mops, dusty boxes, a broken treadmill, and a rusted metal cot. While I was shaking out the thin sheets, Haley stood in the doorway, her teary, victim act completely gone. "Did you really think playing the victim would work, Gwen?" I shoved my duffel bag under the cot. "It worked well enough for you. You've been living off that act for 5 years. She let out a dry laugh and kicked the blanket I had just folded, sending it tumbling onto the dusty floor. "Look at me. I have millions of followers, a full-ride scholarship, your parents, and your brother. What do you have?" I knelt down to pick up the blanket, shaking off the dust. She crouched in front of me, dropping her voice to a vicious whisper. "You don't even know, do you? Your early admission slot at Columbia? They gave it to me." My hands paused. She smiled, deeply satisfied by my silence. "And that little lakeside apartment your grandmother left you. Your parents already agreed to transfer the deed to my name once I graduate. to compensate me for my psychological trauma. That apartment had been my grandmother's. Before she passed, she had held my hand and told me that if the world ever became too loud, that apartment would always be my sanctuary. I hadn't cried in 5 years. Not during solitary confinement, not when I was burning with a fever and ignored by the staff, not when the girl in the cot next to mine spent the night slamming her head against the brick wall. But right now, I almost laughed. The sheer, bottomless greed of it. Taking my silence as defeat, Haley sneered. Don't look so bitter. You brought this on yourself. Who wants to give a house or a future to a violent delinquent? Keep dreaming. I looked up. Haley, do you ever think about Paige? The smugness on her face hardened. Paige, the girl she had terrorized 5 years ago. The day I found her, she was shivering in the corner of the sports equipment room, her school uniform covered in blue paint, her hair hacked off in jagged clumps. After they dragged me away, I never saw her again. Haley stood up, smoothing her white dress, stepping back into her delicate persona. She transferred schools. What happens to her has nothing to do with me. Good to know, I said, flattening my blanket. Get some sleep, sister. You have a live stream tomorrow, don't you? She eyed me warily. What are you planning? Nothing. Just watching you make your money. The next night, Haley went live from my old bedroom. My childhood bookshelf was her backdrop, and my first place piano trophies were meticulously arranged behind her. She beamed at the camera. I've been using this scar cream for years, guys, she said, her voice dripping with sweet sincerity. Look at my arm. The scar from that terrible incident back in high school? It's almost completely gone. She rolled up her sleeve to show the faint, superficial mark she had made herself. The chat flooded with crying emojis and heart filters. I walked into the room carrying a warm glass of water. Time for your medication, Haley. Her smile fractured for a second. Gwen, I'm working right now. Mom told me to bring it, I said, setting the glass on her desk. She said your health is fragile and you can't miss a dose. The live chat instantly went wild with questions. Wait, what medication does Haley take? I thought she was fully recovered. How can she stream for 4 hours if she's sick? Haley shot me a murderous glare before quickly pivoting to the camera. Oh, it's just vitamins, guys. My sister just got back. She doesn't really understand. I didn't leave. I stood just at the edge of the camera frame. Terrified of what I might do next, she rushed her pitch. Anyway, guys, this scar cream is on a special flash sale tonight. Buy 3, get 1 free. I picked up an unopened box of the cream from her desk, examining it. Is this really the same cream you've been using for years, Haley? She clenched her jaw. Of course it is. But the manufacture date on this box says last month. The chat froze. I turned the bottle toward the camera, highlighting the print. Your injury was 5 years ago, but this product hit the market 30 days ago. Your skin's healing abilities are practically miraculous. Haley's face warped with panic. My mother burst into the room, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the door. Gwen, stop causing trouble. I let her pull me back, keeping my voice loud enough for the microphone to pick up. Mom, I'm not causing trouble. I just don't want Haley to get sued for false advertising. The words landed like a physical blow. The chat erupted in accusations, and Haley panicked, abruptly ending the stream. The second the broadcast cut, she grabbed the heavy glass of water and hurled it at my face. I dodged. The glass shattered against the wall behind me, water and shards raining down. My father rushed in at the noise, finding a bedroom covered in broken glass and a sobbing Haley. She was hyperventilating, clutching her chest. Dad, I know Gwen hates me, but this is my livelihood. Why does she have to humiliate me in front of everyone? My father turned to me, his chest heaving with rage. Gwen, apologize to your sister. Now. I looked at the shards on the floor. She threw the glass. She sold the fake product. She told a lie. What exactly am I apologizing for? Wyatt stepped into the room, his eyes cold as ice. Are you determined to get her cyberbullied, Gwen? I looked at my brother. When they plastered my face all over the school bulletin boards 5 years ago, calling me a psychopath, did you ever ask who was pushing me? Wyatt's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Haley suddenly gasped, clutching her heart, and collapsed backward. Haley, my mother shrieked. They all scrambled to her side. I stood by the door, watching them fawn over her with practiced devotion. Over Dora's shoulder, Haley caught my eye. The panic was gone, replaced by a slow, triumphant smirk. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. I had recorded the entire exchange on my phone. The glass flying toward my face was crystal clear. But I didn't post it. Not yet. A clown needs to be on the grandest stage before you pull the rug out from under them. 03. By the next morning, I was the most hated girl on the local internet. Haley had posted a new video. She was sitting in a hospital bed, a 4-line taped to the back of her hand. Her voice was raspy and weak. I've tried so hard to heal my sister with love, she whispered. But trauma changes a person, please don't send her hate. She's just sick. At the end of the video, she cried as she apologized on my behalf. The comment section was a sea of sympathy. Haley is literally an angel. If my sister did that to me, she'd be dead to me. Get the sister to a psych ward already. She's dangerous. My mother threw her tablet onto the kitchen table in front of me. Look at what you've done. I glanced at the screen. Trending number 7. You guys should have bought more bot traffic. Richard's face darkened. Are you not embarrassed enough? Haley sat on the sofa, looking pale and fragile, while Wyatt stood behind her, his hand resting supportively on her shoulder. Gwen, just record a public apology. Let's put an end to this. An apology for what? An admission that you lost control of your emotions. Apologize to Haley and her followers. I stared at him. Did you write the script for me? Wyatt stiffened. I picked up the printed sheet of paper from the coffee table. The heading was bold, an open letter to my sister and the public. I read a few lines aloud and laughed. Very dramatic, Wyatt. Is this how you pitch startups to investors? By making up fairy tales. Wyatt's face flushed with embarrassment. I'm trying to help you, Gwen. By helping me lock the straitjacket in place? I ripped the paper in half. Haley's tears immediately began to flow. Gwen, if you hate me that much, I'll delete my accounts. I'll give everything back to you. Haley, don't say that. Dora cried out, panic-stricken. You worked so hard for everything you have. Why should you give it up? Because she knows her accounts are built on a lie, I said, my voice cutting through the room. The living room went dead quiet. Haley's fingers clenched the hem of her skirt. I looked at my father. Do you actually know how she built her brand? Through charity work, academic excellence, and raising awareness for bullying victims, Richard said, his tone impatient. Try fake sob stories, falsified medical reports, paid bot networks, and heavily edited videos of me from before I was sent away. Haley scrambled to her feet. You're lying. You're making things up. Nervous. I pulled out my phone and cast the screen to the living room TV. It was a screenshot of a Discord group chat. Group name, Haley's Core PR and Data Team. The admin had posted, tonight at 8 p.m., push the narrative. Keywords, sister's aggressive tendencies, victim sibling, family healing. Another account replied, the throwback video is edited. We kept the part where Gwen shoves Haley, but cut the provocation. Haley lunged toward the TV to turn it off, but I stepped in her way. Wait, there's more. I swiped to the next image. It was an invoice from a prominent digital reputation management firm. Inspirational persona maintenance package, $30,000. My father's expression shifted. Haley burst into hysterical tears. Dad, this is fake. She photoshopped this. Who knows what kind of criminals she met in that horrible place? She just wants to destroy me. Why grab my phone to examine the images? Screenshots can be faked, Gwen. Do you have actual proof? I nodded. Iga! Haley went entirely pale. I held out my hand. First, give me the transfer deed to grandmother's apartment. My mother gasped. How do you know about that? Just because I sleep in the pantry doesn't mean I'm deaf. Last night, I had heard them whispering in the study, discussing how to transfer grandmother's apartment into Haley's recovery trust because my mental state made me unfit to hold property. My mother avoided my gaze. We were only going to hold it for safekeeping, Gwen. By putting her name on the deed? Richard slammed his fist on the table. Enough! How we distribute family assets is none of your business. I stared at the man who called himself my father. 5 years ago, he had slammed his fist down the exact same way. The evidence is clear. Stop lying. Ship her out tonight. A sudden wave of exhaustion washed over me. I had no desire to argue with them. I picked up my duffel bag. Wyatt blocked the front door. Where do you think you're going? The police station. Haley panicked. Gwen, we're family. Don't drag this outside. I stopped. Didn't you just say my evidence was fake? I looked her dead in the eye. Then let's let the police figure out if the screenshots are fake, if the chat logs are fake, and if every dollar you made off playing the victim is clean. Her knees buckled. My mother grabbed my arm, her eyes pleading. Gwen, please don't be reckless. I looked down at her hand. 5 years ago, this was the hand that had pinned me down while my father took my phone and dragged me into the unmarked van bound for the camp. I peeled her fingers off my arm, one by one. Mom, you can't pin me down this time.